Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 7 of this season, coming to you today from Long Beach. My name is Ron Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Charles Boshell. Guido Marzucchi is our producer for today's broadcast. Well, Charles, to kick off the second half of the season, we head to a track that I think could be described in one word as treacherous. The Long Beach Street Circuit is synonymous with being one that can really test a driver's patience and also test the tensile strength of the concrete walls around it. So I have a feeling that this race that we have in store potentially going to be one of the more ominous ones that we have for these drivers all season long.
Yeah, this Long Beach Street Circuit is very, very difficult. Obviously, there you can see some very wide areas, but in some sections it just really tightens up. And so far, hey, I think I've watched a lot of races here, both with the Weekend Warriors and in real life, and concrete barriers are undefeated at this point. So it's going to be a very difficult race for these drivers. But that's what they come out to do. They're going to come out and race hard, and we're going to have a really interesting race. Hopefully we'll have a low attrition rate, but sometimes we do get those where we'll get those significant pile-ups in some of these corners, especially around the fountain.
Yeah, and we had a very interesting race yesterday with the Formula V. Some drivers learning the difficulties of this track, especially turn number 5, but more on that in a couple of moments' time. For now, though, let's take a look at the championship point standings as we head off into the second half of the season. Going to start off with Spec 1, where Felix Moes holds on to the championship points lead as it stands at the current moment. 524 points on the board for a Weekend Warriors staple. He's been around the block many, many times before here in the Weekend Warriors world. He's had a pretty good season up to this point, holds on to 2 wins as we enter this race, and looking to keep that momentum rolling as we head off for round number 7. It's Mikey Pollard slotted in P2. Daniel Tuss, as much as he has grabbed a couple of wins, including a win last time out at Laguna Seca, he's a little bit farther back when it comes to the points. Felix Moes looking to hold on to as big of a lead as he can through the final few weeks, with Edward Buchanan and Jerome Rademacher rounding out your top 5 in Spec 1. And now we take a look at Spec 2, where Jason Chen has certainly been the dominant force in that category. Holds on to the championship points lead, 426 points on the board as it stands right now. 8 Allen in P2 at 265, Andrew Love in P3 at 232, and then Josh Wilkie slotted in 4th, and Paul Jackson rounds out the top 5. Jason Chen, the only Spec 2 driver above 300 points, let alone 400 points. As we take a look at Masters, Antonio Reese, top of the board right now, 432 points is his tally right now. Only have to go 30 back to find Alan DeGassis, has had a very good season up to this point in that 904 machine, slotted in P2. Jeff Wubker is in 3rd. Jim Brewster is actually celebrating his birthday today, is currently in 4th. We would like to wish Jim a happy birthday here. And Peter Maddox, Stevie Ray, Jorg Motti, Brad Cathcart, John Thompson, Adam Bradshaw round out your drivers currently classed in the Masters category. Bradshaw yet to score a point. But right before we took a look at the championship points, Charles, I mentioned this turn number 5 that we're seeing Antonio Reese go through right now. It's a very challenging turn, to be sure. It's actually part of your keys here for this week's broadcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Item number 1 on the keys to the race today. Danger in every corner. Obviously, we talked about it, especially turn 5. It seems like it catches cars out every race we're at this track, just because of those inside little diamond curbs, as well as the camber change. Just really hard to just get through there safely and then back on the throttle successfully. Second key is be smooth on the pedals. Obviously, you want to get good braking zones. There's a couple really, really hard braking zones, a lot of them, as a matter of fact. And but you want to get not only good entries into the corners, but you want to get the nice smooth throttle application on the exits to keep your car headed in the straight line. Then finally, pit entrance and exit. This is one of the trickier pit entries in iRacing. It's a little bit of like a 90-degree corners, almost like a chicane on pit entry as you're going in there. And then pit exit just flows right back out to the outside of the racing line going into turn 1. So there's a lot of danger involved in that, with cars at full chat coming down the straightaway, as well as finding that turning in point for turn 1 that you have to find without crossing over the line and incurring a penalty. And those are the keys to the race today. And I will echo another happy birthday for Jim Brewster today, as well as my daughter tomorrow, who will turn, I don't know, something, 30 something. The difference between the two is Jim will probably watch this race. My daughter will not. So, but we'll say happy birthday to Jim.
I'm not sure what to say about the wish for your daughter's birthday tomorrow. She's turning. I'm not really too sure. Let's do a lap here with Michael McConnell as he heads his way down into turn number 1. Very good overtaking opportunity at the end of that super long start-finish straightaway, but really hard concrete is the name of the game on the outside. Now through the fountain. Want to avoid hitting those flowers, otherwise they're going to pick up a bill from the aquarium. That's turn number 4, another challenging section. Look at that curb on the inside. That's not even a curb. That's an urban plateau. That's turn number 5. You just brought up the challenges there. The track falls away. It feels like it's just feeding you into that hungry monster that is a concrete barrier on the outside. Here's turn number 6 and 7. Yes, this does count as 2 turns. You can use a lot of this turn as we head on the exit. Now down into turn number 8. This is another choke point. You can see how much the track bottlenecks heading off through there. Now down the backstretch under the Firestone Bridge. About to head our way off into turn number 9. A good overtaking spot as well, but a super bumpy braking zone means that it's not so easy either. Super important to try and nail it through there, otherwise you're going to nail one of the walls. Here's turn number 10. Really want to try and take liberties with those curbs on the inside, get yourself set up well for the final hairpin, turn number 11, one of the tightest turns on the iRacing platform, and also a spot that some pileups can take place, especially in the early stages of this race that lies ahead. That right there is a rather hectic lap of Long Beach, and even heading down the start-finish straightaway, Charles, these drivers don't really have a point to rest at all.
No, not really, because if you're in the pack, you're going to have some cars that are getting a good draft off of you, and you'll probably get a good draft off the car in front, and so there'll be some kind of jockeying for position, maybe looking to make a move going down into turn 1. That's probably the prime passing area as you're building up that speed down the front straight. But turn 1, you got to get that pass done and dusted before you get there. There's not really a good way going too wide, as you see Daniel Tufts there, just with a nice move to the inside to get that pass made. It looked easy for him, but I promise you, it's not. You saw a hunch curb he took. That inside curb there on 1 will sometimes spit you out into the opposite wall, so you have to be very careful of that. But that was a good move by Tufts going down into turn 1.
Yeah, very good move from him, and a very good qualifying session as it stands right now. He holds on to the provisional pole to 126.146. Simon Ball slotted in second as it stands right now. Christopher Cash is slotted in third, the driver of the number 50 car, making his first ever Formula Ford Weekend Warrior start, and we follow him as he has his way down into turn number 11. Chris Cash, a driver that I've gotten the opportunity to cover before on the official side of things when it comes to Formula 1600 competition here on the iRacing platform. Got the opportunity to cover him just about weekly on another network, on another show, but he's a very quick driver, I can tell you that much, and he's proving that right now. Currently ahead of your championship leader of Felix Samoa, slotted in 4th. Edward Buchanan completes an all-spec 1 top 5. JVC Estevan. That's my dyslexia coming in right there. JVC currently the top qualifier in the Spec 2 category as it stands right now. However, Jason Chen may look to try and improve, currently out there on the racetrack, about to set in 1 more lap and potentially get another lap after this to try and improve. But JVC holding on to that pole in the Spec 2 category as it stands right now, with Antonio Reese holding on to it right now, jumping up into P9 right in front of our old pal here at SMB. I say old pal as if he's not still our boss, Mr. Joshua Wilkie, slotted in at P10 in the 777 machine. But as we follow Antonio heading his way down into turn number 1, I do want to raise this as well. Mr. Stevie Ray, series admin, and all around very, very nice fellow, has written a book, and you can find that on Kindle or wherever you get your ebooks. We've got the information up on screen right now. Pixels to Podiums, and nice to see Stevie branch out into the world of writing books. I'll tell you what, my dad has told me for the longest time that I should write a book with the plethora of random racing knowledge that I know, but people barely tolerate that as a broadcast, let alone as a hard copy book. So I'm not sure if that's the best idea, but Stevie's writing a book. yeah, I say is writing a book, has written a book. You can get that wherever you get your ebooks from. But the checkered flag out here in qualifying, Daniel Tuff still holding on to that provisional pole, and it's still looking good for him as it stands currently. The three-time pole sitter up to this point in the championship, looking to make it a fourth.
Yeah, I was actually shocked. I was as you were running down the qualifying order that we had three of our Spec 2 drivers that were leading all of our masters. So, but now Reese and Monty have kind of got in the middle of that. So just kind of odd that you see the Spec 2s. Obviously, they've got pretty good practice in and got some good pace, and they're showing it off today. So it's going to be a very interesting battle. We haven't really talked about how important qualifying is, and we don't talk about the importance of qualifying, but here I think it matters a little more than other places. Is you want to be as close to the front as possible, because as this group makes its way down into turn one for the first time and people are kind of jockeying for position, you don't want to be behind a group of cars that end up getting tangled up and you getting involved in it. So it always pays to have a spot up near the front.
Yeah, and you'd prefer to stay out of the mid-pack, so in this 21 car field, I'd say probably P11 is not the spot to be in, and that's, of course, where Josh finds himself in right now. So
you just
I guess that's how the fate works. I'm trying to do a reverse commentator thing, so let's see if it works here today. But let's take a look at the starting grid here for this race, round number 7 of the season. It'll be Daniel Tuff's lining up at the pole position. That's his 4th pole here in Season 3 of 2025. The reigning champion may not have consistency on his side, but he certainly has pace here in qualifying. Simon Ball, the Norwegian driver in the number 76, will join Tufts on that front row. It will be Christopher Cash starting this race in 3rd. Alongside him will be Edward Buchanan in the 5 car starting this race, not so fittingly, in 4th. It'll be Felix Samoa starting in P5 alongside Mikey Pollard in 6th. JVC Estevan, the Icelandic driver, will start in P7 alongside Jason Shen in P8. Antonio Reese and York Monty going to complete an all-Masters row 5.
Yep, Josh Wilkie will start in P11. On the outside of him will be Trent Kramer in P12. Michael McConnell in 13th. Andrew Love will start in 14th. Alan DeGassis, Masters driver, starts in 15th. Daniel Verone starting in 16th. Kevin Adrian will start in P17. The boss Stevie Ray will start in P18. John Thomas just behind him in P19. And Paul Jackson rounds out your top 20. To finish off the group here, David Linehan starts in P21. Graham Hunt starts in P22, and I think I did see where he was not going to take the start of the race. And then Ken Poulin will start in 23rd. Should he take the start, that'll be your 23 car grid. And as they're rolling off, I don't hear Ron. So
that right there was my apologies. Right there, I was doing
no
a plug for subscribing to Slow Motion Broadcasting so you can get professional commentary from a guy who doesn't know that the red light on his microphone means that his microphone is muted. But we've got a good race for you all here this evening. Just touching on the other talking points there in qualifying, you raised one there right towards the end of it, Charles, talking about how the Masters drivers weren't really able to usurp the Spec 2 racers. That's the first time that the Spec 2 pole sitter has been above the Masters pole sitter since Aid Allen grabbed the pole in Spec 2 at the Red Bull Ring. Started that race in 4th over Alan DeGassis, the Masters pole sitter, right behind in P5. So first time we've seen a swapperoo like that in a little bit here in this series, but still looking forward to it. I think we're in for a very challenging, very technical race around this 11-turn street course, storied in the world of American motorsports. And it's going to be Daniel Tufts, the reigning champion, leading us to green. Simon Ball, first time we've seen him in a little bit here in the series. He usually excels at these tricky tracks. Let's see what he'll be able to do today as the pace cars come down pit lane. The field now in the hands of our front row sitters as a green flag is out, and the drivers are on their way as they fan out 2x2 and 3 wide a little bit farther in the back. Gonna be a drag race between Ball and Tufts as they head their way through into turn number 1. Who's gonna win out in this battle as late breakers into the turn? Look at that, the dive contact being made. Christopher Cash running into the back of the one of Daniel Tuff's contact being made big time off into the turn. Thankfully, though, the 50 of Cash still running strong. He gets a tap up the back as well, down to the fan section, the choke point as well, catching out more drivers behind. That, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, right there at the back is going to be Daniel Verone getting struck by falling anvil. I think he may have been joined in all that drama by John Toms, as we see. That's Verone missing a front nose cone. Some rhinoplasty definitely needed on that car. Clean at the front, but chaos behind.
Yeah, that was, but everybody else was pretty much clean and clear. It was just Verone and Toms that were involved in that. And Isfan already up 5 positions into P2. What a great start to this race.
Yeah, Istvan starting this race from the Spec 2 pole in P7, already making his way up into P2. Brilliant stuff as these front 3 looking like they're trying to break away, with Cash dropping down a bit in the number 50 machine, and those front 3 just pulling away, driving off into the sunset as quickly as they possibly can. Already a 1.5 second gap between Simon Ball in 3rd and Cash in P4 as we look at this field bottleneck their way down into turn number 1. It's a pretty clean start for a vast majority of this field. Daniel Tuffs going to lead lap 1 over JVC Estevan, and Simon Ball completing her podium as it stands right now. Estevan top running of those Spec 2 racers, looking to do something that we haven't seen up to this point in this season here in the Formula 4 Weekend Warriors. We saw it over on the FVs, where it was Andrew Love, a Spec 2 racer, grabbing an overall win at, I believe it was round number 3 of the season at Phillip Island. Looks like we may have the opportunity, if you are JVC Estevan, to potentially be the first non-Spec 1 racer this season to win a race overall in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. So a lot of time, a lot of opportunities to gain some time, and a lot of opportunities to make a mistake as well.
Yeah, as we see, if we see on our graphics, Verone in the pits with a meatball, so he's going to have to come in for required repairs. Also, meatball I saw, I think, for Andrew Love. I'm not sure what we saw there. I think that's Andrew on the outside of that corner 1. And then, just a checkup, a couple of taps, and then 2 cars into the barrier. As you called it the choke point, and that's exactly what it was for that lap. Just everybody just trying to get through there, and just slowing down significantly. And you saw the cars behind not quite getting that memo and causing some contact.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, those people at the aquarium are rather ruthless when it comes to handing out those cleaning penalties for anyone driving off into the fountain, either nicking the marble that's made out of or driving over the flowers. I heard a story one time that an IndyCar racer back in, I think it was 2004, it was back in the Champ Car days, they drove off into the flowers and they actually got slapped by an octopus. So you never want to have that happen to you, that is for certain. But Daniel Tuffs has avoided the flowers, and even in that moment, despite being a huge stack up, I think the only sort of contact being made was to the concrete and the tire barriers on the outside of that turn. Also, a fun fact for all of you about the history of Long Beach: this version of the track has only been operational since the year 2000, I believe. There was a brief transitional period between the track that they had throughout most of the 90s and the one that we have, kind of a half and half chimera abomination of the two. But this version of the track is the one that I am most familiar with. That's the one that stood the test of time with Long Beach. It's been in use ever since. The only alterations that have really been made have just been shifting around some barriers, which, hey, it's a street race, you can kind of expect that. And that found section, it is probably one of the most claustrophobic sections of racetrack on iRacing. But back in the day, it was even more so because I guess to avoid the possibility of aquarium attendees having to slap a racing driver with an octopus, they used to have the inside concreted off too. So it was just an alleyway that racers had to try and negotiate with.
This is significantly better, although not great. But as you said, it's very pretty, if nothing else. But it is a very difficult corner to drive, as we see Andrew Love coming down the pits to get his pit stop done, his service done, I think his fast repair. And he had the meatball, so he's going to come in and get that required repair done, use his fast repair. And this is one of those, it's lap 4, and we're about 5 minutes into this race. This is one of those races where you can do a lot of fuel saving. That might be a little too much. I don't know that these cars can go the entire 40 minutes, obviously, or so should say 35 minutes on the fuel they have on board. But might be a strategy to try if you can get away with just making one stop. If you can do some fuel saving the rest of the race, that would be at least preferable, I think, to to stopping twice. So because it is a very long and slow pit stop down this pit lane.
Yeah, that pit lane, whenever you see it in real life or whenever you see it in the sim, it is excruciating looking at those drivers running down there, trundling their way down pit lane at what feels like about 2 miles an hour compared to the cars out there on the racing surface. Always absolutely brutal looking at drivers having to make far more runs through the pit lane than they absolutely have to. One stop, pretty much the order of the day when it comes to all Weekend Warriors races. So, at least with the FFs and the spec racing Forza Formula Visa, if you have a pit stop there, you're probably going to be in for a world of hurt. But here in the
Mhm.
FFs, one pit stop being the norm. I'm not sure if Andrew Love will be able to make it to the end, but I've seen stranger things, and I don't even have a Netflix subscription. Looking at the front, Tufts and Istvan still holding on to P1 and P2, keeping themselves honest right now. However, behind us, really starting to get intense. Simon Paul had a terrible run heading off through the found section. He's now creating a bit of a shoehorn effect here. You've got Christopher Cash, Edward Buchanan, and Felix Samoas running right in tow behind. They may try and go for some moves here. They're smelling blood in the water. Simon Ball, as much as I said that he usually excels in tricky conditions like this, we've seen him do very well in rain races in the past. It's not wet here at Long Beach, so frankly, Simon Ball, I think he's potentially starting to struggle here. He was quick in the early stages, but I think those mistakes have begun to pile up for the driver, the number 76.
Yeah, his last lap was a little better actually than the two leaders, but the cars behind him were almost a half second faster. So, oh, a loose moment there coming out of turn 9. And you can see him now struggling with the car. The tires are now overheated. And so he's going to struggle to get around this next couple of corners until those come back down. This is going to be a good potential run here for the cars behind to maybe get it done May coming down into one.
Yeah, Simon Ball really struggling. You can see it as he headed his way off through turn number 10 as well, having to saw at the wheel just to keep that car underneath him. And let's take a look at some more moments that have been going on all throughout this field. This is Jurg Mani and a moment that he had trying to get a move done down the start-finish stretch that isn't marked as turn number 1. Turn number 1 is actually the turn right up here, and that's rather uncontested there. A nice move from Jurg Mani, just utilizing that slipstream and jumping his way up into another spot. As it stands right now, he's currently slotted in P number 11. Got that move done on Trent Kramer and is still behind the Spec 2 racer of Jason Shen. Here comes a battle, though. Christopher Cash looking for a move around the outside into turn number 6 on Simon Bolga. Swap now to the inside, but this is going to be a tough spot to try and make it work into turn number 8. This turn is tricky enough single file, let alone side by side. That tire barrier on the outside looms ominously as these racers head off through that section of the track. Simon Ball still struggling and actually being a bit of a bottleneck right now. You can see right behind. It was Cash Buchanan and Samoa's right behind. We also look at Mikey Pollard and Antonio Reese looking to get dicey as well.
Yeah, he is actually acting as the cork in the bottle, as they like to say. Is definitely a little losing time to the two cars in front, and these guys are now, as we get a little bit closer now, somebody might actually in this group think of maybe an undercut, come into the pits early and get out from behind a car that may be a little bit slower than you, get some clean air, run some faster laps, and see if you can get them on the pit cycle. But we're getting to that point. I haven't seen our normal pit opener Stevie Ray come into the pits yet, but that'll be an indicator of when the pit window is now officially open. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, Ball's definitely struggling a little bit. You can see the cars skating around a bit, especially coming out of 5 as we watch him coming through here again. Last time I think he kind of skirted the wall a little bit, but that was a little bit better run through there this time as they come down around 06, and they'll be lining up here for turn 8. And if I'm Chris Cash, I'm looking for a good run out of turn 8 to get a good run down the straightaway, maybe get a move done before we get into turn 9.
Yeah, that car of Simon Ball, he is starting to skid around like a seagull landing on a water slide. That is not a good run of form for him. He's setting slower lap after slower lap. If you're the drivers behind, though, I would maybe consider that alternate strategy. Just see what you can do. But the front of the field, Daniel Tufts and JVC Isvan, don't have to worry about that for now. Keyword being for now, they're still running nose to tail, not really squabbling up. So I think they're deciding, you know what, we're only 10 minutes into this race. Let's pull away. Let's say, you know what, it's just going to be a battle between us two. And then once we realize that we're in a good spot, then we can really start to battle hard. Let's take a look at a moment involving Trent Kramer in the 20 cars. He heads his way through turn number 6 and 7 into 8 right now. So everybody says this may have been a move gone cataclysmically wrong, potentially. Nope, looking good through there, looking all right. It was, I think, a slight wall tap right in front from Mani, but outside of that, looked rather smooth off through there. So it's nothing major between those racers. I think I definitely saw a bit of a wall scrape. Nothing too major, though, from Mani. He's going to start to see those wall taps begin to pile up, as I think Daniel Verone may have had some sort of moment. This is his run down between turns number 5 and 6 and to the braking zone right now. Is it a lock up into the turn? Does he loop it around? No! Bang! Into the Acura wall.
Yep, and I think he said, "I'm done for today." I think that's Daniel giving up once again. Concrete barriers winning. That was a tire barrier actually, but you can just see as Felix Moas has dropped down a position or two. So he's dropped down to P8. So not really sure what happened there, but he was. We'll get on board here. This is, I believe, Antonio that we're on board with.
I think Felix, yeah, he just pulled over to the side of the road and let him by. That's rather odd.
Maybe that is kind of odd. I don't think there's any hidden slowdowns through that section, so I'm not really sure what's going on. Unless maybe he cut the corner at turn 5 and just couldn't get it bled off until the straightaway. So maybe that was what it was. I do know there's a slowdown there on the inside turn 5. Ooh.
Oh, no. Okay, that's not going to work. That was Josh Wilkie and Jason Shen battling hard into turn number 1. I thought it was going to end in tears, and it nearly did for the drivers behind. Mani having to take evasive action, slip by Jason Shen to be able to jump his way up into the top 10. Trent Kramer now looking to pick up the pieces, as well as Chen still trying to get his bearings straight as a result of this moment. And let's take a look at another moment that went on not terribly long ago involving Michael McConnell. It's a move from him on the 904 right there. That's himself. And Alan DeGas is battling hard into the turn. You can see down into there and doesn't work out. Slides and backs it into the wall. I think it was a rather square hit, so I'm sure his rain light's probably broken. But outside of that, I don't think there's any major wheel damage on that car of McConnell. And still holding on to the racetrack without any sort of meatball flag. So I think he got away with that outside of a little bit of lost time and a slightly dented ego.
Yeah, that's good on Michael. But yeah, you can just see turn 1 how incredibly tricky it is to get the car stopped and turned in there, as he's just really tight line around that final hairpin behind Kevin Adrian. Going to try and get a run and get that spot back as they head down the front stretch. But yeah, he did good to not get collected by anybody else. As you said, just kind of backed it into the wall and was able to continue without any major damage.
As we take a look at a move potentially here, it's Kevin Adrian and Michael McConnell battling hard down into turn number 1. Looks like McConnell will hold on to that spot as it stands right now. We'll note Simon Ball's had a moment. Ooh. Look at that. That's a missing nose cone. He's backwards coming out of turn number 5. The dastardly turn strikes again, and the first driver to get bit by that bullet badly here today is going to be Simon Ball. Let's take a look at this as he heads his way through turn number 4. Nothing major through there, but here was 5. Let's see what happened. He hit the curb big time, pops the front wheels up in the ground, and Christopher Cash picked up some damage potentially and all that as well.
Yeah, he did. And that's, we talked about turn 5 being the trouble spot here, at least one of the major ones. And you can see it just caught too much of that inside curb, and the car jumped. And could not get it back under control until he made contact with that tire barrier and then the wall, and then the car of Christopher Cash comes through and makes a little more contact.
Yes, that's an unfortunate moment there for sure for Simon Ball. I said that he was certainly struggling, and that was the case. Running off through turn number 1. Holy cow, that was going to be a near disaster with Antonio Rees and Mikey Pollard. Got to hold off on that point as we're going to see these two racers battle hard down into turn number 1. Looks like Pollard going to jump into that spot rather uncontested. Trent Kramer's made a run down pit lane, so the pit stop's now beginning. We're definitely in that window where these drivers could rather easily make it to the end of the race on fuel, so we may start to see some racers who have been a bit down on their luck thus far potentially throw something at the wall to see what can stick. But I was just going to wrap up that point with Simon Ball. It was really starting to struggle. Tam said in the YouTube chat that there may have potentially been some damage on that car of Ball as well. Not entirely sure if that was the case, but either way, pushing it too hard, hit those inside curbs of turn number 5. I said that the inside curb of turn 4, the turn right prior to it, was an urban plateau. The curbs on the inside of turn 5, though, they're basically like a giant race car trampoline, except it's not made out of rubber, it's made out of concrete.
Yeah, that's a pretty good analogy. That's about right. And yeah, he could have picked up some damage on that first lap. Obviously with all the shuffling of positions at the very beginning of the race. But yeah, just you could see that he wasn't having a good time, a good drive up to that point, and then finally the track finally bit him, and that was it's probably race done for him. Oh, he's coming back out. I say race done, but he's taking his pit stop. He's taking his fast repair, and he's back out on the track. So he's going to come back around in looks like about P20. So he'll have his pit stop done, and he's well within the pit window. So he'll come back out and see if he can pick up some positions before the end of the race. So good on Simon.
And here's a side-by-side fight with Josh Wilkie and Jörg Mani heading down into turn number 1. That's Jörg jumping his way up into P number 8. Your current P2 runner in that Masters category right now. The Masters class still being led by Antonio Rees. We'll say Christopher Cash, despite picking up some damage potentially as a result of all that, hasn't lost out on too much pace. I mean, in terms of his last lap, set a 1:27.0, which is not too terribly far off his best lap of the race. So frankly, Christopher Cash running pretty all right compared to what we were probably expecting. He's still feeling the pressure from Edward Buchanan right behind, but nowhere near enough damage to potentially bring him down into the pits earlier than he expected. Still looking on course for the driver making his debut here in the series.
Yeah, and fastest lap of the race was Isfan on the last lap with a 1:26.54. So obviously he got some really good pace up at the front, and he's basically stayed step for step with our reigning champion there, Daniel Tufts. He's only about 6.5 tenths back, so he's done a really good job of getting out. As we see now, Tufts with the fastest lap of the race, 26.36. So he's done a good job of just matching time with Daniel. So he's in a really good position. The pit stop is going to be that much more critical now. So you're going to want to get that good pit entry and exit, and potentially, really kind of short your fuel a little bit. As we said, you can do a little bit of fuel saving here and stretch that fuel number out. So we'll see what those pit times are going to be when those drivers get a little closer to the end of the race. We do know for sure that they will have to take a pit stop. That is mandatory as per the rules.
Yeah, so we will have to worry about those pit stops, and they are certainly going to play a huge factor in deciding who's going to do well and who's going to do poorly at the end of this race. That's one thing I love about the Weekend Warriors. Always have to worry about that pitch strategy content. Worry in the case of the drivers. Look forward to it in our case here in the broadcast booth, because we don't nearly have the same amount of stress as they do, having to worry about all of that sort of stuff. As we took a look at JVC Estevan's perspective in the start of this race, definitely had a bit of a run up, it must be said. I'm not sure how that'll be judged. I mean, he hasn't picked up any sort of penalty yet, and I'm not really sure if he'll pick up one. In the rules, I believe just barely. It's definitely stretching them to a certain extent, but hey, it worked out well. Currently running in P2 as we nearly saw a collision with Mikey Pollard and Felix Samoas. Pollard now making that call to come down pit lane while the first driver's inside the top 10 to do so.
Yeah, it's probably a good call. He was in a battle there with Reese and Samoas, and obviously it looked like he was trying to make a couple of runs on Antonio to get by, and just said, you know what, I'll come in and pit. I'll get my pit stop done, get back out there, and maybe a little bit of clean track. Hopefully you won't get hung behind any other cars, as we're seeing Chin moving down to the inside on Jörg Mani. Ooh, nice move there. Done a good job, and looks like that's sorry. The 814 car there. That's Chin. And who was that came in front? Was that Wilkie? So Wilkie and Chin both coming around Monty, I think, is what I just saw. So good stuff by them. Good battle there between those four cars.
Yeah, so still some good squabbling going on all throughout this field as we're getting to the halfway mark of this race in 3, 2, 1. Now officially at the halfway mark here for round number 7 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. If you're enjoying the action thus far, happy to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the racing action, which is still intense here at Long Beach. We've got a battle still between your P2 and P3 racer in the Spec 2 category. That's Josh Wilkie and Jason Chen. They had a bit of a moment last time out at Laguna Seca. Looked rather odd from our perspective in the broadcast booth, but afterwards getting full confirmation that it was just a nasty case of the iRacing glue sticking those cars together. But they're back out here on the racetrack yet again, battling Jason Chen, the dominant driver thus far this season here in the Spec 2 category, looking to make up another spot. I'm not sure if it's really realistic for him to get the win in Spec 2 here tonight, but hey, a P2 is still pretty good, and a P7 in terms of finishing this race overall would still be just enough for him to slowly but surely irk out some more points in that championship lead.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's every point is going to count. So yeah, if you can get the further up you get in the order, the better you're gonna end. And I'm going to throw an alternate theory out there. Pollard came in the last lap. I thought the lap prior to that, I thought I saw Samoa's maybe glance off the wall coming out of 8 right here as we're on board with this fan. It might have been Pollard because they were battling together at that point in time. So it might have actually been Pollard that maybe bounced it off that wall coming out of 8, and maybe he thought that he might have a little damage. So maybe pitting was a little more essential than we initially thought.
Oh, as you can see, every single time I see them heading their way off through turn number 9 and hitting the curb on the inside, I'm worried about two things. A slowdown, and B, a driver just getting the rear end of the car boing popped up into the air and just tank slappering it into the outside wall. We'll say, though, JVC Estevan losing out on a decent amount of time last time around. Now 1.7 is the gap between himself and Daniel Tufts, as John Tom's picking up a black flag in P20, probably for incidents that, or it's some sort of pit lane penalty. Yeah, we had a joke right before the other broadcast as we were doing our little pre-race jibber jabber, talking about potentially having an over-under on the amount of drivers that pick up any sort of pit lane penalties. Very easy to pick up an unsafe exit. Charles, you raised it a little bit earlier on. If you clip one of the lines, one of the many lines heading down into turn at number 1 and turn in a little bit early, as that's Felix Samoes hitting the walk up at turn 5. Just to wrap up that point, the pit exit super treacherous, but turn 5 even more so for Samoes.
Yeah, definitely another one of those cars that just kind of skipped over those curbs and just kind of a little bit of air as they went through there, and then a little bit of a wall scrape as he was trying to get the car turned. But yeah, it is very difficult there, and I would say it's probably more likely on a pit exit penalty than it is an off-track penalty. Usually off-tracks here are if you get 13 of them, it's usually terminal before that point because of all the concrete around here. So I would lean toward it being a pit exit penalty. And
yeah, I think that would. Pit. Yeah, there's Antonio Reese making that call to come down pit lane, one of the latest drivers to make that stop. I think we're going to see a vast majority of the field be unified in what sort of strategy they try and use here this evening. Haven't seen too many clumps of racers make that call to pit, just a sprinkling all throughout this field as we jump back to this battle for the final podium spot. It's Christopher Cash and Edward Buchanan running nose to tail as we follow that number 50 car. Now gonna have to worry about some lap traffic right in front. I'm not sure who that is trying to get a number off of that race car. Ooh. Contact being made up into the wall goes a lapper, and that's contact with Chris Cash. The front end of that car already had a pummeling as a result of that moment involving Simon Ball in the 76 machine a little bit earlier on. Was that Simon Ball that got involved in that? Actually, no, we're hearing that it was David Lenahan that was involved in that. Either way, Christopher Cash potentially with a slightly sad front end. I think I can see it a little bit. Looks like that front left is running a little bit lower than the rest of the wheels on the car.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me that there's, oh no! And there's Wilkie and DeGassis into the wall coming out of 8. And
Jason Chen.
Oh, is that Jason Chen?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Big
wow,
moment in
okay.
Spec 2.
Oh, wow, so that's a Spec 2 battle that just went. Oh, yeah, so he's kinda caught the wall on the inside there or on the, outside of, turn 6, and then as they're working their way through 7, you just see it over rotates into the tire barrier, nowhere for Wilkie to go. That is one of the detriments to this track is if you get a car spinning in front, there's nothing really you're gonna be able to do if you're within a couple of tenths. As we see Wilkie, looks like he's trying to reverse it a bit. I'm not sure if he knows about the little secret entrance there. He does not. He just tows it back to the pits. There is a secret entrance there that will save you some time. You'll get a penalty for it, but you can get into the pits that way, and you'll be off the track. So tough break. That's two of our Spec 2 runners in contact with each other and are going to fall way down in the order.
And I'll tell you what, and this is honest, that may have potentially been the worst case of netcode I have seen in my entire life. That right there, it looked like about 3 to 4, potentially even 5 feet of separation between that car of Chen and Wilkie, and then just looked like a puppeteer got possessed and just yoinked that car around. That was, oh boy, that was very, very iffy. I'll tell you what,
Mm.
iRacing doing a fantastic job as usual, but that may have been the most bizarre piece of netcode I've seen in my entire life. That right there is for certain. Tough break for those two. They're running strong at P2 and P3 in the Spec 2 category when that incident took place. That'll be good for Paul Jackson, your Spec 2 winner from the last race at Laguna Seca. He's now jumped into P11 and P2 of the Spec 2 competitors as it stands right now. But for Chen, gonna be a small little kick in the shins. For Wilkie, it's going to be a standard case of commentator jinxes being thrown his way by his very own employees. So if this is my last show, it's been a great ride. I'll see you all when I see y'all.
Yep, that's how it works sometimes as we're seeing the battle here with Monty and DeGassis. As DeGassis looking down on the inside there and not going to make that move. He's going to stay back in P7 and not attempt anything there. Probably pretty smart. Pretty good distance back. In Jorg is pretty good in this car as drivers go. He's good on the brakes and really aggressive on the track. So DeGassis thinking the better of that. Ooh, and the contact with the wall there. It's probably not the only time we'll see that between now and the end of the race, and there's only 13 minutes left. So it's so good running so far by those two. Still up there in the edge of the top 10 as we're back on board here with Chris Cash. Looking to the inside there, and that's Felix Samoa's behind him that was looking to the inside of Cash. Ed Buchanan up there in P3 having a great run today. So he's been running really well this season. Had a couple of issues here and there, but overall really, really strong by Buchanan.
Oh, and don't tell me there's been another commentator's jinx being thrown to a Spec 2 racer. This is Paul Jackson, the Brit, as he heads his way down into turn number 1. Isn't a moment down to the turn. It is a moment down to the turn, and bang,
Yep.
into the wall he's going to go. That
Yeah,
is
that's
probably
rough.
going to be some race-ending damage on that car. The right-hand side whacking that wall. He nearly got sideswiped. I believe, I'm not sure if that was Trent Kramer or Jörg Monty that just came through and nearly swiped across him. But that was a huge moment for Jackson. That's going to take him out of this race big time. The tire bundles on the outside of turn number 1, I can't even say they're made out of the matter of white dwarf stars. They're made out of just such dense, unbelievable material. You hit that and it just got popped those wheels off like misshapen Legos, as we see another close call with Felix Samoas as he has his way off through turn number 5, trying to chase down the wounded number 50 car of Christopher Cash.
Yeah, Felix is really pushing it through turn 5 and hasn't really bit him yet, but that's your odds are odds are not good if you continue to do that. It will eventually catch you out. And as good as Felix is, not sure there's anything that anybody can do about it if you hit that wrong. As you can see him very aggressive there in 9 as well as they're coming their way around 10 and into the hairpin. And you see Buchanan up there, and then Cash, and then Felix. And Cash is still having a really strong run, and Felix not able to find a way around him. So I think that's maybe why he's turned his at least his racing line aggression level up a bit.
Yeah, turning up the wick, cranking it up as we get to the end of this race. Now about 10.5 minutes left to go on the clock. Daniel Tufts leads over JVC Estevan, the driver in Spec 2. Dropping down still some discussion in the YouTube chat about whether or not he will pick up a penalty. I'm not entirely sure if that would be a penalty-worthy offense. Michelle Lynn recounting a tale of herself picking up a penalty for something rather similar in a Formula V race at New Hampshire. So I would be interested to see whether or not that would be a penalty for Estevan. If it is, and it demotes him out of the lead in Spec 2, Andrew Love will be the one to inherit that top running spot. As something's going on a little bit farther up the road. That right there, I believe, is that Jason Chen? I believe that is Jason Chen. Missing front nose cone, bouncing up the track. And let's take a look at this. There's been some more drama going on all throughout this field. This is this is David Lenahan, and he's had a moment of his own regard down into turn number 5 and into the outside wall. He's going to go, noses it in, and okay, looking good there. All right, thus far. And I think there may have been a similar moment, but potentially unrelated, involving Jason Chen. Yeah, hit the outside wall, clips it with the left rear, and spins him straight into that tire barrier. The usual turn 5 special here at Long Beach.
Yeah, and it's very sad to see. Obviously, Jason's had just a great season so far. He won the first race and wasn't actually planning on coming back, as we see. That's Buchanan, Samoas, DeGassis, McConnell all into the pits this lap. We talked with Jason after the round 1 victory he had, and wasn't sure he was going to come back, but then he won the race, and he said, "I'll have to." Just have to apologize to my girlfriend, and has had just a great season. And obviously, this is the first misstep he's had. He's on board here with Jorg Monty, working his way through the fountain, and then around through 3, having a great run up in P4. And Jorg is pushing it every lap, as we can see. It just really looks clean there. And as I'm trying to get some information from Guido. I'm sorry, Guido, I did not hear you. No battles on track, says Guido. With the track itself is the battle for a lot of these cars today. It's just because of the nature of it. It's very, very difficult track, and just full focus. There's, as Ron said at the opening, there's really no place for a break here. You're constantly working the car, trying to maximize everything and trying to keep it off of all these concrete barriers. And for the most part, we've got most of our cars still out running. We've only had a couple of cars, right? So only Verone is the only car that's out of the race.
And the top 3 all making that call to come down pit lane. Daniel Tufts, JVC Estevan, and Christopher Cash all making that call to come down pit lane. They'll be joined by your Masters leader of Jorg Monty. Will Kevin Adrian, the number 10 car, follow in suit? Let's just see. And he will. So that's going to be the top 5 all making that call to come down in pit lane together. Felix Samoas, we follow him as he has his way off through the final few corners. He's already made that call to come down pit lane. Spent 10.6 seconds, stopped in the pit stall, on 48.3 seconds down pit lane. We'll say Daniel Tufts exit out in front of JVC Estevan, exits out of the pit stall, that is, as now back on the racetrack, trying to get that momentum back up and rolling. He has his way down into turn number 1. Keep an eye. There's that blue line. Once you cross that blue line, you can finally join the track. It creates a rather sketchy run down into turn number 1 with the possibility of drivers picking up any sort of contact, but it can also brew up a penalty, and that's what's going on with JVC Estevan. He's picked up a black flag. I can imagine it was probably for some sort of pit exit violation, that or he sped.
Yep, I think that's exactly right. And it's, obviously it's easy to speed here with a car with no pit limiter. So we're going to get on board. We're going to get a replay of Istvan on his way out of the pits. So makes it all the way down to the cones. All well done there as we're working our way down into turn 1. And
yeah,
wow.
I think it has.
I guess it is speeding. So yep, that'll be what the penalty is. So that was a very clean exit. So unfortunate for him, he's going to have to come back down and serve that.
I will say, and this is honest, whenever you see that run down into turn at number 1, of course, the regular road markings, as this is a street circuit, shocker, I know. You got the regular road markings, and you've got the racetrack markings as well down into turn number 1 on pit exit. That spaghetti nonsense can be rather confusing, but that wasn't what caught out Istvan there. That had to have been a pit lane speeding penalty. Still going to be a huge kick in the shins, and if that does result in a swaparoo in Spec 2, I believe it would give it to Andrew Love, currently slotted in P13. I'm going to double check to make 100% sure. Yes, he has made that call to come down pit lane, albeit the shortest stop out of anybody thus far in this race, 9.92 seconds. Either Andrew Love is the fuel-saving wizard, or he's going to have to potentially pick up a Thompson trophy.
Yeah, and I think Andrew was one of those cars that had an early meatball, so came down very early in the race, and so maybe he is trying to do some fuel saving and trying to extend it out so he won't stop again. But he is our I would say definitely the Thompson Trophy nominee, at least potentially for today.
Yes, I think we already have at least one nominee. Let's see how many we will have by the end of this race. Daniel Tuff still leads over JVC Istvan. Once we see Istvan make that call to serve that black flag, that will give it to Felix Samoas. And he has had a black flag for a decent couple of laps in a row now, so I wonder whether or not he does know the fact that he has a black flag. If he doesn't, that's going to be a big kick in the shins for sure, and that would give Felix Samoas P2 very good form for him to maintain his gap in the championship. Istvan stays at for yet another lap. Rather interesting what we're seeing right now, Charles. I wonder if he knows that he has a black flag, or if he's waiting for somebody to potentially clear it. I mean, you don't usually see black flags get cleared here in the Weekend Warriors, so
Yeah,
not really sure exactly what the case is, but he is staying out still.
No, I think the rule is if it's an iRacing black flag, they won't clear it for any reason whatsoever. So it's going to come back around, and I think this will be his last attempt if he stays out on the track, because he doesn't know. We're going to know it before he does, because he's going to be removed from the session. He's just going to disappear. So hopefully he recognizes that he needs to come out and serve that penalty, and so he'll come in on the next come around and get that done. As we're on board here, this Masters battle here between Jorg Monty and Alan DeGasse is still going on. Got Trenton Kramer right front, who's had a good run up to P8, so he's having a good day today. Up 4 positions for Trenton. Istvan's still up there running in P2, but he's about to relinquish that to Samoas. And I'm just trying to count down and just see what the gap is as where Istvan's going to come out in relation to Love. And it's going to be close. There's a lot of time between those two cars, so he might be able to come down and get this done and not lose a spot. But it's going to be tight, I think. We got a replay here, and this is John Toms, and this is turn 9. So far so good through there. We're going to work our way through 10. We're going to get a hairpin incident here. It's kind of what it's looking like. Yeah, just wide entry.
Whoa.
And then very, very sharp turn back to the right to get down the. I think that was just a way of letting a car go through. So he just stayed wide, let the car pass, and then turned back down to hopefully cover a position. As he's out there, or just getting back to the inside to stay off the racing line. We see a car off that, and that's Istvan. Oh no! Is that a crash? We'll get a replay here as we're on board now, coming through turns 3. There's pretty well done there, as we'll see around turn 4. That's turn 5, and then turn 5, a little bit of the tire barrier and a little bit of the inside wall, and I think he said that's probably enough for me. So he's going to tow back. Probably realized pretty quickly that he had some wheel or suspension damage from the tire barrier contact. And I think that's it for him today. Obviously, with the penalty still hanging over, no sense in worrying about it with only about 2 minutes left. And we'll be coming up here. Is this going to be a white flag lap, or are we going to be one more? It's going to be one more after this.
Yeah, so 2 to go, and with those close quarter stuff, you have to worry about any sort of running out of fuel situations that we may have. We'll note Andrew Love did make a brief run to come down pit lane, so not having to worry about fuel too much. Currently slotted in P14, your leader right now in Spec 2, even though he's come in for 2 stops thus far in this race. Shows you that in the Spec 2 class, he could just be consistent, avoid the drama and avoid the chaos, and he could walk away with a class win at the end of it all. Looking at a battle. Maybe gonna flare up here down into turn number 1. That's Yergmani and Alan Degas is battling hard. A move from Degas to jump his way up into P7 now up 8 spots. A little bit slow on exit. Monty there to pounce still. Should note that Alan Degas is currently your hard charger as it stands right now. JVC Istvan was definitely high up in the hard charger award and the hard charger category, but as a result of all that, he has decided to call it a day. He's completely left the session as well. So that will be a swaparoo in Spec 2, a swaparoo for P2 in the Masters category, as Antonio Reese still leads. He is about 11 seconds farther up the road to these two racers, so looking rather uncontested for him. And speaking of uncontested now, Daniel Tufts holds on to a 7.5 second lead over Felix Samoz as a white flag going to be in the air. One more lap of racing action here at Long Beach, and Daniel Tufts looking to cap off what is going to be something we haven't really seen thus far in the championship. Back-to-back wins for Daniel Tufts with this race. He won at Laguna Seca last time out. I'm looking through, yet to have back-to-back winners, and this will be Tufts' 4th win this season. Was winless last season, won the championship. Not looking too great for him in the championship this season, but at least he's got some more checks in the win department, as Trent Kramer has made a call to come down pit lane, and he picks up a black flag in the process.
Oh, and that's a killer. And that's going to be the pit entry speeding penalty, I think. So that's a tough break for Trenton. He had a good run going, but obviously I think didn't have enough fuel. Felt like he needed to come in and get a little splash to finish it off. And just get this battle here between Degas and Monty going into the fountain section. Degas hanging on to that, or picking up that spot over Monty to pick up P7. So great move there. Oh, and then Monty half spin, catches the car, but that battle is now over. As Degas makes it away around, I think Monty, oh, no, there he's back. Just a little blink. And Degas is going to pick up P2 in Masters and P7. I think he's got to make sure he doesn't make a mistake between now and the end of the race, as we have Tufts coming around to take the checker.
Yeah, Daniel Tufts going to grab win number 4 for himself thus far here in Season 3 of 2025. There's the win for Tufts. He wins it by 8.5 seconds, sang the quickest lap of the race last time by as well to 126.2. He wins it over Felix Samoz in P2. Mikey Pollard set to round out your podium. Christopher Cash in his series debut will walk away with the final spot inside the top 5. Here's Antonio coming across the line. This will be another Masters win for him in a season that has been absolutely dominated by him. This will be win 6 in 7 races. Incredible stuff from him. Alan Degas is going to come home right behind in P7, 11, nearly 12 seconds a gap at the end. Monty going to finish right behind the P8 as we follow the rest of them come across the line. Gonna be a little while until we see Andrew Love cross the line to win it in Spec 2 as we follow the man himself, Mr. Stevie Ray, heading his way off into turn number 11 to finish this race in P11, heading his way onto that start-finish straightaway right now. But Charles, I mean, we were expecting this race to be a one of attrition, and while we didn't see a whole lot of retirements in the first half, once the mental fatigue began to set in for some racers, we really started to see those mistakes pile up.
Yeah, we talk about the classes, and we've got Spec 1, Spec 2, and Masters, and it's basically all about experience, right? Spec 1, been in the server longer, higher I rating, more experience. Spec 2, not as much experience, and then Masters, life experience is the best way to say that. But you can see the Spec 2 guys very quick. Had some guys up at the front in qualifying, up in the top 10, but the Masters guys with the life experience and managed to hang on. And you had 3 of those in the finishing out the top 10 of the group. So great race. Tufts obviously very dominant today. So great job by him. Good recovery by Pollard to get back up to P3. Buchanan had another solid run. So yeah, great racing. And yeah, the attrition wasn't as much as you could see here, but for a pretty good sized grid of 22 cars, was a really good battles on the track, and for the most part, fairly clean and incident free. We had just a couple of small incidents, but nothing major to speak of. As we see somebody now redecorating the flowers there at the fountain.
Yeah, that right there, I believe, was Mr. Joshua Wilkie, who is bound to be slapped by psychopath from the aquarium yielding an octopus. I don't know what went through my head to come up with that joke at the start of the show, but I'm now going to roll with it for as long as I'm doing this iRacing broadcasting, covering races here at Long Beach. But we'll get those results loaded up here in just a couple of moments, Simon, and I'll let you know that it was 8.686 seconds at the end of all that. 8686 for the gap between Daniel Tufts and Felix Samoa's. Incredible stuff from Tufts, holding on to the lead pretty much from the drop of the green flag all the way through to the fall of the checker to grab win number 4 for him here in Season 3. Samoa's will finish right behind in P2. Mikey Pollard sets a round at your overall podium in 3rd. It will be Edward Buchanan finishing this race in P4, right where he started as well, which there were only 2 drivers to do that, Tufts and Buchanan. So only 2 drivers throughout the entirety of this 21 car starting field that were actually able to hold on to the same spot from the start to the finish. Christopher Cash ends up finishing this race in P5 in his series debut. It'll be Antonio Reese winning it in the Masters category in P6. Alan Degassis in 7th. Jörg Monty will finish this race in P8. Michael McConnell in 9th with Kevin Adrian rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, Stevie Ray finishes in P11th. Simon Ball finishes in 12th. Then we have our Spec 2 podium. Andrew Love in 13th. Josh Wilkie in 14th. Paul Jackson in 15th. Trent Kramer finishes in 16th. Isfan with a really tough day at the office. Great start, not a great finish, finishing in 17th. We had John Toms finishing in 18th. Jason Chin, obviously a couple incidents as well, finishing 19th. David Linehan finishing in 20th. Daniel Verone, it finished 21st. Graham Hunt, Ken Poulin did not take the start, and that rounds out your 23-car finishing order for today.
So those are your results for this race here this evening. Daniel Tufts going to walk away with win number 4. It's going to be the second win of the weekend for Andrew Love after winning it in the Formula V race yesterday, fittingly at this exact same racetrack, but that'll be win number 1 for him in Spec 2, and Antonio grabbing win number 6, fittingly finishing this race in P6 at the end of it all. But looking through here, Charles, looks like we got some drivers looking to have a chat with us, and I think we'll get things up and rolling by having a chat with our race winner of Daniel Tufts, and I'll pass it off to you, Charles, to have a chat with our winner.
Cool. Okay. Yep. Let's bring Daniel in here. We'll have a chat. Daniel, congratulations. Had a little bit of a chaser there at Isfan early in the race, but toward the midpoint, you just kind of checked out and made it look really easy today.
Yeah, it was a interesting race. It was mainly just keeping it steady and keeping my focus. Scary part was the first lap, first corner. Just tapped from behind twice, almost in the wall. But other than that, just keeping the focus was the main thing.
Yeah, we talk about this every time we're here at Long Beach. It's just, sometimes you're battling the cars and just sometimes you're having to battle the track. And this track is notorious for catching people out, but didn't see anything that you did wrong. Just like I said, it was a very consistent race by you and didn't put a foot wrong the entire day.
Yeah, it was. I just kept an eye on his dad behind, and I had one mistake on the lap, on my in lap. I locked up in the first corner, and that was about it. I lost 2 seconds, but it was fine.
Awesome job today, and I would say I'll ask you about next week, but I actually don't know where we are next week. So we'll just say we're VIR. Oh, yep. Okay. So VIR next week. What are your thoughts about that?
Do you know which layout?
Oh, let me find this out real quick. The full layouts. I believe that'll be the Grand Prix version.
The Grand Prix version. All right. So full layout. That's obviously a very, very long circuit. And it's a really technical track. It's a really good test for a car and a driver.
Yeah, I think it would just be it'll be a good mix, actually. We have a good mix of draft overtakes and keeping diff gaps with the corners, so it should be interesting.
Awesome, Daniel. Congratulations. We'll let you give any thanks or shout outs, and then we'll let you go and celebrate your victory.
Yeah, thanks to you for broadcasting. It's always fun, and Steve for putting on the championship.
Well, Daniel, thank you very much. Congratulations on your win. First driver to get back-to-back wins in the Formula 4. So well done.
Thanks.
All right.
And that right there was Daniel Tufts, your winner overall. The fourth win for him this season. Kicked off the first half of the season with a win. Rounded off the first half of the season with a win. And he kicks off the second half of the season with a win. So well done to Daniel Tufts, trying to mount a challenge as we get towards the end of season 3. But the driver that I want to have a chat with is going to be our Masters winner at the end of this race, Antonio, joining us here in the broadcast booth. Antonio,
hello
welcome
guys.
in. Congratulations on win
Thank
number
you.
6 for you here this season. How was it out there?
It was not very easy, but it was okay. So I was somehow happy because I was alive every corner. So yeah.
Staying alive here. That's exactly what the name of the game was here at this track. We were talking about some of the challenges of running here at Long Beach, but I want to ask you, from your perspective behind the wheel, what do you think was the toughest part about running this race?
Actually, everywhere. Everywhere was the toughest one. Every single corner is the most tough corner because it's really hard to keep the car on the, especially when you want to be fast and follow someone who is faster than you to keep the draft and to keep that pace. It's really hard to not do a mistake in every corner. Every corner is so challenging. That's the Steve Ray middle name, challenging.
Yeah, I never knew that fun fact about Stevie up until now, but yeah, definitely a tough race here for round number 7, but it's been a very good season for you up until this point as we are past the halfway mark here in season 3. How do you feel about sealing the deal in the Masters Championship in the weeks that lie ahead?
I will do my best. You never know the result because it doesn't depend on me and depend on the others as well. So I'm okay. I like to have fun with the guys and stay together with them, stay on the Discord, having saying some fun things and have a good time. The result is like an extra like if comes, if don't come. But I don't really. My goal is really to be with the guys. This is a great community, so I like to be there and to enjoy the time with the guys, mostly.
Fair enough. But Antonio, we'll ask you about next week at VIR, another American road course, but that one definitely a bit different than this one here today.
Drafty. It's a very drafty track. You don't need to be fast. You just have to keep behind someone faster than you. That's it. If you survive, it's done on that way. It's kind of a very strategical kind of a track for me, as far as I understand.
Yeah, I think that race is going to be very much so a slipstream game at 1 week's time, and looking forward to seeing you out there on the racetrack again, Antonio. We'll let you give any thanks or shout-outs before we let you go.
Yeah, you guys for the broadcast. It's amazing work you're doing, and for the Steve Ray and all the guys helping Steve to organize everything, and for the drivers, for the sponsor today, and for the viewers, and for my family. and for you guys. I just said repeating myself. Okay.
Oh, don't worry, Antonio. I've been repeating myself for the past 2.5 years. I've been doing this broadcasting stuff for, but thank you for joining us here in the broadcast.
Thank you guys for having me.
Looking forward to seeing you at VIR.
Yeah, see you next week.
And that right there was Antonio Reese, your winner in the Masters category here today. And Charles, got some more drivers up there in the interview waiting area, so I want to ask who you want to have a chat with next.
Let's bring our Spec 2 winner in, Andrew Love. Let's have a chat with him. We haven't spoken with him in a while. Andrew, congratulations on the class victory today. You had a kind of a rough start to the race, but managed to just work your way back up and survive.
It was a big gift. They wrapped it up and put a big bow on it and just handed it to me in the last couple laps.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about it a little bit where you had a contact and had to take that early pit stop and was kind of wondering if you thought that you might be able to fuel save and not stop again, but it looked like that was not going to be in the cards today.
No, I was 4 laps short, and I'm just horrible at fuel saving, and I get really horrible fuel mileage anyway. I just I can never make the distance that the good guys can on the fuel. I'm always stopping a lap or two soon before then.
Yeah, so absolutely. So you know, obviously we talked about this circuit, it being just you're battling with the other drivers as much as you're just trying to battle with the track itself and trying to keep the car off the wall. So yeah, so obviously next week, however, VIR, the Grand Prix circuit, the big course, and obviously a different type of scenario involved.
No walls to bounce off of, which is good, and no tree to bounce off of anymore. So I guess that might be good.
Yep.
But yeah, that'll be a good race. That'll be good. I'm looking forward to that one. That'd be fun.
Awesome. Well, Andrew, congratulations on the class victory. We'll let you give any thanks for shout outs. And are you going to run the Spec Racer race coming up?
Yeah, I've already joined the server. I'm just sitting here waiting to get in my car. I've got to do my contractual agreements, obligations.
There you go. There you go.
So before I can start driving, I got to
we'll let you go ahead.
I got to
and
do the hat
things.
dance, put on all my different hats and all that kind of
there
stuff.
You go. Absolutely.
Put on my certain sunglasses, my Ray-Bans or my whatever sunglasses I have to wear.
Insert sponsor name here.
Yes, sponsor name here. Yep. All right. Thanks to the sponsor. Thanks to you guys once again for doing the broadcast. I know it's a lot of work and it's a big commitment for you guys to take the time to do it. Thanks to Stevie for organizing the league and putting everything together and doing all the background, trying to raise funds and that kind of stuff. I know that's a difficult thing, but thanks to everybody. Yeah.
Awesome. Andrew, congratulations, and we'll see you in the Spec Racer race coming up, and then again here at the Formula Fords next week.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Charles. All right. See ya.
And that right there was Andrew Love, your Spec 2 winner at the end of this race. I will say we have Josh up there in the interview waiting area, but I think he probably is going to come in here to fire me after I threw him my 17th commentator jinx in a row over the past couple of weeks here. So, Charles, looking ahead to VIR, very happy that we're running on, it's kind of confusing with the names. The full layout is the one that runs the uninterrupted back straightaway. The grand course is the one that runs the Patriot layout on the infield, the sad chicken nuggets of a dogleg detour that you can take on the infield of that track. So VIR on the full layouts with the massive slipstream gain that will be brought in as a result.
Yeah, it's the slipstream is obviously, as you said, very important down that back stretch, and these cars because they're not necessarily the most overpowered cars on the planet. They'll do a good job in the Snake and in the S's as well. So there'll be a little bit of slipstream going on there, but obviously no walls to worry about, but lots of grass that you could find yourself almost getting lost if you get off the track, and it may take you 15 seconds to rejoin the circuit properly. So there's lots of room to lose time there. But once again, obviously, not the certainty of death should you get off the track as you would here. So it's going to be a fun race. We run this race. We run VIR quite frequently, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, really looking forward to that race in just 1 week's time here in Slow Motion Broadcasting, and looking forward to the action in about 1 hour's time from the Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors running their 7th round of the championship at Sebring. That's going to be a very humid race, and that's certainly going to be a fun one to look forward to later on this afternoon here on SMB. That doesn't even do it for the action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Week in and week out, we've got some of the best action that iRacing has to offer this upcoming week. We've got the action from Sim Racers Group in their F4 series running at Portland, along with the Sim Racers Group SRG F3 Championship running their 8th round of the championship at the Nürburgring on the Grand Prix layout, to be a bit more precise. This upcoming Saturday, we have got you absolutely booked with action. The Formula V Weekend Warriors going to be running at the Saxon Ring. My coverage of Ron's race nights continues with week number 8 action from the Formula C Fix series at the Nordschleife. And then, of course, next week for the Weekend Warriors, we've got the FS running at VIR and the SRS running at Oran Park. That doesn't even do it for the action action coming up here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, though, as next Saturday on the 9th of August, we have the USRA Sizzling Sebring 180, a 3-hour-long endurance sports car race. That's going to be a pretty good action, a boatload of action on Saturday next week here on SMB. If you want to be a part of that event, you can join the SMB Discord server through the link here on the YouTube channel. And if you want to join in on some more action coming up, Season 2 of the Extreme Motorsports IndyCar Championship Series is looking for some racers to get that season up and rolling. Those brand new refreshed IRA teams have put on some amazing fun in the officials and towards the end of that season. I really enjoy the way it's looking right now, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you that action for Season 2. And to all of you tuning into this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting, we hope you enjoyed this evening's action. But hey, we still got that Spec Racer Ford coming up later on this afternoon. But as for this broadcast here, for round number 7 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors here at Long Beach, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Charles Boshell joining me in the commentary booth, and Guido Marzucchi doing a wonderful job working on the cameras and the graphics in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you also very much for tuning into this broadcast here on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all for that Spec Racer Ford race coming up later on this afternoon.